Welcome everyone! In this video, we are going to be diving into my top 3 best teams for Dewgong. Dewgong has always had tremendous potential. It was just really missing out on a really good coverage move, and holy smokes, Niantic came through in Season 15, messed around and gave this thing drill run, and holy smokes, guys. Those of you unfamiliar with Dewgong, it is quite bulky. For a little bit of context, it is bulkier than Noctowl, it's bulkier than Lantern, bulkier than Medicham, and bulkier than Altaria. Did you know that? Would you believe that? It is only slightly less bulkier than G-Fisk. That is the power of Dewgong. That is why it has always had so much potential. But my goodness, now having Drill Run, it has that much needed steel coverage. It doesn't necessarily flip a lot of matchups on even shields and health, but, and this is a big but, we're not always faced with that scenario. So up energy, up a shield, having Drill Run, it can put in the work. So I'm super excited, so glad this thing got the love it really needed. It is now hyper meta in the Open Great League as it does address Lantern and Noctowl. So without further ado, let's dive right into these teams. All right, guys, here we go. Kicking it off with team number 1. A very powerful team. Likely the strongest team you can run with Dewgong, guys. Keep that in mind. It leads with Defense Form Deoxys here on the lead, Lickitung on the safe swap, and Dewgong in the back to sweep the game. So, with Noctowl being culled a little bit, it's still out there. It's still going to make its presence known for sure, but not nearly as overused, guys, and that's because of all the buffs. So that gives Lickitung a little bit more renewed playability. So lest we forget, this is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the Great League and has tremendous play. So having it on the safe swap is amazing. It's here to draw out any potential Medichams or any other fighters that may be lurking in the back. That clears the way for Dewgong to roam free and wreak havoc, preferably up a shield as the closer. So let's have a look at this scorecard here. And oh, holy smokes. Look at that, guys. My goodness. Look at this scorecard, guys. I'm not kidding. This is likely the best Dewgong team you can possibly run. And we are bringing it here for you today. For coverage, we get a B, bulk A, safety A, consistency A. You don't get much better than that. That is tremendous. Let's have a look at these matchups. So this is the average between the 0s and the 1s here, but Deoxys on the lead is going to be starting out in the 2s. So we do quite well with DD on the lead, as most people are really gearing up for all of the newly buffed ice types by leading with Medicham, and Deoxys absolutely loves to see it. It also loves to see the ice type leads as well. G-Fisk on the lead, I did want to highlight a little bit. That one's a little bit tricky. What you can do is you can play it a number of ways. You can look to, the best way is to get that counter damage in, get that super effective counter damage in, and catch that Earthquake onto Lickitung. It's a team effort all across the board for a G-Fisk lead, but G-Fisk will undoubtedly have at least one flyer in the back. Protects G-Fisk from the fighters like Medicham. So you want to draw that out. You'd want to save Deoxys just in case they're also running a Medi in the back. That's why you kind of want to catch that onto Lickitung. Maybe draw out a Medicham, because Medicham makes sense as well because it protects Stunfisk from the counter users as well. So you want to draw that out. That's why you're catching the EQ onto Lickitung if you can. Their first Earthquake takes 8 of their mud shots. The next 2 will be 7. So keep that in mind. That's the best way to do it. If things go awry, you can shield that. You really don't want to tank that damage because that would be giving a potential Medicham a significant health advantage. You don't really want to do that. So ideally, you catch that onto Lickitung and look to play on from there. And again, if things don't quite go your way, you do still have Dewgong with Drill Run that can fight back. So that's the ideal way to play a Stunfisk. Takes a team effort for sure. And opposing Lickitung, that's another tricky one. You can hang in there a little bit. They are doing super effective damage with their licks. So you can hang in there long enough to chip the health, tank that first body slam, and then go into your own Licky Tongue for the mirror. That's another team effort. Not nearly as big of a team effort as something like a G-Fisk would be, but still very tricky nonetheless. That's how I would play that. Get off some chip damage, tank that body slam, go into the mirror. Bastion on lead, you can laugh all the way to the bank. You'll be doing just fine. Let's see here. What else do we have? What else did I wanted to highlight potential Diggersby. You don't see it too often. It did not get a buff as I wanted to see, but that's okay. That means that we're not going to be seeing it as much, but you could. It's fine. It doesn't hit particularly hard. It's a bit of a team effort between Deoxys and Licky Tongue. What you can do is look to throw your Psycho Boost just shy of the Earthquake, and then catch that onto Licky Tongue and play on from there. Umbreon, that's a very tricky one. It kind of core breaks Deoxys and Licky Tongue quite a bit. It may seem like a decent matchup for Deoxys, but it is not. The counters do not have stab, and Deoxys does not hit hard enough for those counters to truly matter on Umbreon. And Umbreon is doing super effective fast move pressure and can hit you with super effective foul plays. So what you can do, the ideal setup is to make them think that you're going to stay in and look to catch the foul play onto Licky Tongue, or the safe play, if you're not comfortable doing that, is to immediately just go into Licky Tongue and look to play on from there. Toxapex, we don't see too often. I really don't know why, because it is very, very good. But if you do encounter one, you can chip and dip that thing. Look to get off that Thunderbolt, you can do that, or you can just immediately chip with the super effective Psycho Boost and then go into Licky Tongue and look to play on from there. But that is the team. Everything else in between, pretty straightforward. Very, very strong team. The best Dewgong team you can possibly run. It leads with Deoxys on the lead, Licky Tongue on the safe swap, and Dewgong in the back to close the game strong. So that is team number one. With all that said, let's have a look at team number two. All right, my friends, moving right along to team number two. Another very powerful Dewgong team. This time, Dewgong's going to be on the lead for team two. We've got Sableye on the safe swap and Deoxys in the back. So, Dewgong on the lead, quite strong. Can do quite well on the lead. You just have to watch out for the Metachams and protect it from the Metachams and all other counter users. That's why we've got Sableye. There's no better answer to those fighters, particularly Metacham, than Sableye. And we've got an added layer of Metacham coverage coming in the form of Deoxys in the back. So that's why we've got these two Pokemon here in the back. If you're not comfortable running Sableye, I'm telling you, Noctowl, I've not seen nearly as many Noctowls. The usage has dropped reasonably so. They are still out there again, but if you're just not comfortable running Sableye or you don't have one, you can run Metacham and run a ABB double Psychic counter user team. That team will do just fine as well. But let's have a look at the scorecard here. And not bad, very strong, very solid. I generally like to see an A or B for the coverage, but we'll live with a C. Not too bad, not the end of the world. We do get a B for bulk, A for safety, and an A for consistency. Very strong scorecard overall. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So Registeel and Stunfisk are going to be trouble on the lead. The problem with a Registeel lead is there's generally a flyer in the back, usually coming in the form of Altaria. Although I have seen some wacky ABA lines with a Basti behind Registeel. We saw that pickup, that sort of nonsense pickup toward the end of the last Great League cycle. And I have seen them pop up in Season 15, which is absolutely wild to see. But generally, it is a flyer. If it's ABA steel, it can be a bit tricky because that's generally good for you if you're leading with your counter user, that being Deoxys. So it takes a little bit of tactical maneuvering. So ideally, this is very difficult to pull off, would be to catch, but that's not likely and not feasible for most people. So what you're going to do is get off that drill run. They will likely not shield it because they know that they can tank it, and then immediately pivot into Sableye. That's the safest way to play for 9 out of 10 of you watching. So that's how I would play Registeel, get that chip damage in, and then go into Sableye and look to play on from there. Stunfisk, a little bit different. It's not nearly as threatening as Registeel. And by the way, speaking of Registeel, just know that you can comfortably tank a Focus Blast or a Zap Cannon. So do know that, but I don't recommend it. And moving on to Stunfisk. Again, not nearly as threatening, but it does outpace you to the rock slides. So what you can do there is look to get off that drill run. Again, they will likely not shield unless they're really afraid of that Dewgong on the lead. You never know. But either way, you want to either grab that shield or do that nice chip damage. And if you can pull this off, if you have a little bit of experience playing Pokemon Go, catch that next rock slide onto Sableye, you will likely draw out a Noctowl if they do have it in the back. That's kind of what you want to do. But if they have a Medicham in the back, they'll likely stay in. And that's good because you want to get that G-Fisk out of the way. Either way, that's how I would play the G-Fisk lead. Let's see here. Bastiodon, that's a tricky one as well. Usually because it has a Shadow Vic in the back. So that's another tricky one. You do want to get that chip damage in and bring in Sableye if you can. You can actually look to play up to the CMP tie or throw just before they throw their Stone Edge. You are taking some super effective damage along the way, but either way, you want to chip Basti with a Drill Run and then go into Sableye. I think everything else is pretty straightforward here. And by the way, before we move on, it's saying that you have a narrow loss to both Sableye and Walrein. Keep in mind, this is an average of the 0s and 1s. Every match starts out in the 2s, and if you're leading Dewgong, and you face either one of those on the lead, know that you do win the 2s with Dewgong up against Sableye and Walrein respectively. So I did want to highlight that for you guys before we move on. So that is team number 2. Dewgong on the lead, Sableye on the safe swap, and Deoxys in the back to close the game strong. So with all that said, that is team 2. Let's have a look at team number 3. All right, my friends, last but certainly not least, team number 3. Another very powerful team featuring Dewgong in the Great League. It leads with Medicham on the lead, Dewgong on the safe swap this time, and Lantern in the back. So Medicham, quite powerful, even stronger than it's ever been, maybe with Season 15. So it makes perfect sense to lead with it. And it protects Dewgong and Lantern to an extent from the steel types, mostly Stunfisk for Lantern. But Dewgong doesn't like Stunfisk either. So Medi on the lead protects those two, and the two in the back protect Medi from the Flyers. And now, another caveat to the Team 3. If you're seeing a lot of Deoxys leads or Sableye leads, you could opt to run Sableye on the lead in the place of Medicham. They both get the same scorecard, and that is a good way to get ahead. The coverage is still very much similar, as the two back Pokemon will protect Sableye from the Noctowls. Let's have a look at this scorecard here. And not bad, very similar to team number 2. Again, we do get that C for coverage. We'll live with that. Not a big deal, not the end of the world. We get an A for bulk, B for safety, and an A for consistency. Very strong scorecard for team 3. Let's have a look at these matchups. We all know what's up with Medicham on the lead. I would imagine many of you watching have led with Medi or are leading Medi right now. It's pretty straightforward. We know what Medi wins and what Medi loses. I mentioned Sableye, and I mentioned that Dewgong reliably beats Sableye in the 2s, so you can easily safe swap Dewgong and play on from there. Likely draw out a steel type if they have one. You could, if you're reading that it's Sableye double steel, you could even also just safe swap Lantern. That is a very safe swap, especially knowing that Trevenant has all but dropped out of the meta with the nerf, so you could play it that way as well. Just pivot into Lantern on the Sableye leads, expecting double steel. Let's see here what else. Jellicent. We don't see it too often, but that's a very tricky Pokemon to deal with this team. The problem is that they outpace you to the Shadow Ball on your first Psychic, so you can't even really chip and dip there. The safest play is to just immediately go into Dewgong and look to play on from there. That's how you tackle Jelly. It's a bit of a team effort, no doubt. Deoxys on the lead, very tricky as well. It's bound to have a Walrein or another ice type in the back. So you might have to just soft lose lead on that. Or you could just pivot into Lantern. They may stay in. You may coax them to stay in. That might also be a very solid option as well. Sort of head fake them a little bit, safe swapping Lantern onto Deoxys. That's knowing that they have a ice type in the back, that's actually the play, I believe. Now, really thinking about it, you're going to force that Deoxys to make a very, very difficult decision, safe swapping Lantern. They're going to have to consider staying in, knowing that they have ice in the back, but also knowing that they need that Deoxys to take out the Medicham. So safe swap Lantern, see what that gets you. Try and take out the Deoxys if you can. If you can do that, you will be looking really good with Medicham healthy, and Dewgong can put in the work as well. That's how I'd play Deoxys, safe swap Lantern, make them really make a hard choice. And everything else, pretty straightforward. This is a very powerful team. Team I might actually give a try myself, so look out for that. That is Medicham on the lead, Dewgong on the safe swap, or Lantern based upon your team read, and Lantern in the back. So that about wraps it up, my friends, for Dewgong. So happy it finally got what it needed. I am super excited. Dewgong, very good. On the map, it is now meta, which absolutely warms my heart. I've got one for sure that I've had collecting dust. I really only used it sparingly, mostly in the Kanto Cup. So now I'm excited to really give it a go. I've got two, got a rank 4 and a rank 2 on deck for the Great League. Yeah, absolutely love to see it. But guys, I had a blast. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I thank you for watching and keep up the grind. Thank you, guys.